Words to remember. Chapter 7. Skin structure, growth, and nutrition. Flashcards. Review over and over for best results. Esthetician. A specialist in the cleansing, beautification, and preservation of the health of skin on the entire body, including the face and neck. Dermatologist. Physician who specializes in diseases and disorders of the skin, hair, and nails. Dermatology. Medical branch of science that deals with the study of skin and its nature, structure, functions, diseases, and treatment. Callus. Thickening of the skin caused by continued, repeated pressure on any part of the skin, especially the hands and feet. Epidermis. Definition: outermost and thinnest layer of the skin. It is made up of 5 layers: stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, stratum spinaceum, and stratum germinativum. Stratum corneum. Also known as horny layer, outer layer of the epidermis. Keratin. Fibrous protein of cells that is also the principal component of hair and nails. Barrier function. The complex of lipids between the cells that keep the skin moist by preventing water evaporation, and to guard against irritants penetrating the skin surface. Stratum lucidum. Clear, transparent layer of the epidermis under the stratum corneum. Stratum spinaceum. The spiny layer just above the stratum germinativum layer. Stratum granulosum. Also known as granular layer, layer of the epidermis composed of cells that look like granules and are filled with keratin, replaces cells shed from the stratum corneum. Also known as granular layer, layer of the epidermis composed of cells that look like granules and are filled with keratin, replaces cells shed from the stratum corneum. Melanocytes. Cells that produce the dark skin pigment called melanin. Stratum germinativum. More commonly called the basal cell layer, deepest, live layer of the epidermis that produces new epidermal skin cells and is responsible for growth. Dermis. Also known as derma, corium, cutis, or true skin, underlying or inner layer of the skin. Erector pili muscles. Small, involuntary muscles in the base of the hair follicle that cause goose flesh, sometimes called goosebumps, and papillae. Papillary layer. Outer layer of the dermis, directly beneath the epidermis. Dermal papillae. Singular, dermal papilla, dermal papilla. Small, cone-shaped elevations at the base of the hair follicles that fit into the hair bulb. Tactile corpuscles. Small epidermal structures with nerve endings that are sensitive to touch and pressure. Epidermal-dermal junction. The top of the papillary layer where it joins the epidermis. Subcutaneous tissue. Also known as adipose or subcutaneous tissue. Fatty tissue found below the dermis that gives smoothness and contour to the body, contains fat for use as energy, and also acts as a protective cushion for the outer skin. Reticular layer. Deeper layer of the dermis that supplies the skin with oxygen and nutrients. Contains fat cells, blood vessels, sudoriferous, sweat, glands, hair follicles, lymph vessels, erector pili muscles, sebaceous, oil, glands, and nerve endings. Motor nerve fibers. Fibers of the motor nerves that are distributed to the erector pili muscles attached to hair follicles. Motor nerves carry impulses from the brain to the muscles. Sensory nerve fibers. Fibers of the sensory nerves that react to heat, cold, touch, pressure, and pain. These sensory receptors send messages to the brain. Secretory nerve fibers. Fibers of the secretory nerve that are distributed to the sudoriferous glands and sebaceous glands. Secretory nerves, which are part of the autonomic nervous system, ANS, regulate the excretion of perspiration from the sweat glands and control the flow of sebum to the surface of the skin. Melanin. Tiny grains of pigment, coloring matter, that are produced by melanocytes and deposited into cells in the stratum germinativum layer of the epidermis and in the papillary layers of the dermis. There are two types of melanin, pheomelanin, which is red to yellow in color, and eumelanin, which is dark brown to black. Eumelanin. A type of melanin that is dark brown to black in color. People with dark-colored skin mostly produce eumelanin. There are two types of melanin, the other type is pheomelanin. Pheomelanin. A type of melanin that is red to yellow in color. People with light-colored skin mostly produce pheomelanin. There are two types of melanin, the other type is eumelanin. Broad-spectrum sunscreen. Means that the sunscreen product has been shown to protect against both UVA and UVB radiation of the sun. Collagen. Fibrous protein that gives the skin form and strength. Elastin. Protein base similar to collagen that forms elastic tissue. Sweat glands. They excrete perspiration and detoxify the body by excreting excess salt and unwanted chemicals. Sudoriferous glands. Also known as sweat glands, excrete perspiration and detoxify the body by excreting excess salt and unwanted chemicals. Secretory coil. Coiled base of the sudoriferous, sweat, gland. Sebum. A fatty or oily secretion that lubricates the skin and preserves the softness of the hair. Sebaceous glands. Also known as oil glands, glands connected to hair follicles. Sebum is the fatty or oily secretion of the sebaceous glands. Open COMEDO. Plural, comedones, KAHMadones. Also known as blackhead, hair follicle filled with keratin and sebum. Closed COMEDO. Plural, comedones, KAHMadones. Also known as whitehead, a follicle impacted with dead cells and solidified sebum, appearing as a small white bump just under the skin surface. Closed comedones have an extremely small surface opening. Propionibacterium acnes. Abbreviated P. acnes, technical term for acne bacteria. Acne vulgaris. Also known as acne, a skin disorder characterized by chronic inflammation of the sebaceous glands from retained secretions and bacteria known as Propionibacterium acnes, P. acnes, bacteria. Acne. Also known as acne vulgaris, skin disorder characterized by chronic inflammation of the sebaceous glands from retained secretions and Propionibacterium acnes, P. acnes, bacteria. Papule. Also known as pimple, small elevation on the skin that contains no fluid but may develop pus. Pustule. Raised, inflamed papule with a white or yellow center containing pus in the top of the lesion referred to as the head of the pimple. Pimple. Also known as papule, small elevation on the skin that contains no fluid but may develop pus. Vitamin A. Supports the overall health of the skin, aids in the health, function, and repair of skin cells, has been shown to improve the skin's elasticity and thickness. Vitamin C. An important substance needed for proper repair of the skin and tissues, promotes the production of collagen in the skin's dermal tissues, aids in and promotes the skin's healing process. Vitamin D enables the body to properly absorb and use calcium, the element needed for proper bone development and maintenance. Vitamin D also promotes rapid healing of the skin. Vitamin E helps protect the skin from the harmful effects of the sun's UV light. Thank you. Next chapter. 8 Skin Disorders and Diseases.